Hello everyone, just a few days ago, news of a Vietnamese-Australian crime queen being arrested sent shockwaves through the Vietnamese community in Australia because she wasn't a stranger at all. She was a well-known feng shui master, someone many families had trusted with their fate and fortune. No one could have imagined that behind her gentle appearance and confident fortune-telling was the trail of a sophisticated fraud network involving millions of USD siphoned from vulnerable victims. So who exactly is this woman, and how did someone claiming to help others manipulate trust to orchestrate such a staggering scandal? Right now, without keeping you waiting any longer, Vietnamese Case Files will walk you through each clue as we uncover the full truth behind the story. Before we dive deeper into today's case, we want to note that all information in this episode has been compiled from multiple sources. If you spot any inaccuracies or details that should be updated, please leave a comment so we can correct them promptly. And as always, if you find this content compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the team behind Vietnamese Case Files. Thank you so much for being here. In early 2024, New South Wales police received reports from several automotive finance companies about suspicious car loan applications. Many high-value loans had been approved for luxury vehicles, yet when officers checked the physical locations, no cars could be found. Sensing something was wrong, police immediately launched a formal investigation. During the initial review, they discovered that many applications were made using stolen identities. As detectives traced the financial transactions further, a far more intricate criminal network emerged. It wasn't just car loans. The group had been using the same method to secure business loans, mortgage loans, and to siphon money from multiple banks through an organized, methodical fraud operation. By mid-2025, the investigation led to the arrest of 8 suspects. 2 male ringleaders were charged with nearly 200 counts of fraud and money laundering. Search warrants uncovered approximately 38 million AUD, about $25 in USD in assets, including luxury cars, designer watches, and large amounts of cash. But even though the syndicate appeared crippled, detectives quickly realized that key players were still operating in the shadows. When financial tracing continued, investigators found a large flow of money moving into the bank account of a Vietnamese-Australian woman named Anya Phan, 53. According to the investigation, Anya Phan migrated to Australia in 2001 and later obtained citizenship. She owned an enormous portfolio of assets, including a $9 million USD luxury mansion in Dover Heights, a 4-bedroom property complete with a private cinema, gym, sauna, and a high-end swimming pool. Beyond the mansion, Anya possessed a vast collection of luxury goods, from designer handbags to 40 grams of gold worth about $10,000 USD. Police also documented $6,600 USD worth of casino chips, along with a significant amount of cash. What puzzled investigators most was that for more than 2 decades, she had never held official employment, and was in fact receiving government disability benefits. So how could someone officially unemployed maintain such an extravagant lifestyle? As authorities widened the investigation, they confirmed that her entire wealth was sustained by illicit income from large-scale fraud schemes. Anya was soon identified as one of the key leaders of the Penthouse Syndicate, a financial crime organization considered one of the most sophisticated in Australian history. According to police, the Penthouse Syndicate operated almost like a fully structured corporation of fraud, specifically targeting banks and financial institutions to steal enormous sums of money. So how did this woman rise to the top of a criminal empire in a foreign country? The answer lies in how skillfully she crafted her own image, a perfectly polished facade that made people trust her without hesitation. A few years ago, Anya Phan began appearing regularly at gatherings within the Vietnamese community in Sydney. She attended temple festivals, Tet markets, and often donated small amounts as offerings, building a reputation for generosity. At these events, Anya introduced herself as a gifted feng shui master, someone who understood astrology, destiny charts, and the ability to see the future. Over time, her reputation grew as word spread about her supposedly accurate predictions concerning luck, fortune, and relationships. Many believe she could identify one's benefactor, meaning she could foresee who would soon prosper or rise in status. As her fame increased, more people sought her out for fortune readings, property consultations, or feng shui adjustments to improve their luck. And Anya was delighted. This was the first step in a scheme she had quietly prepared for years. Whenever she discovered someone facing financial hardship, she moved in immediately. She planted sweet promises in their minds. Take out an investment loan, your benefactor is coming soon. Or encourage them to buy a new car, expand their business, because a big blessing is on the way. These messages struck directly at people's desire to change their lives. Anya claimed she possessed lucky charms or feng shui techniques to activate their fortune, but she needed a bit of initial capital to set things in motion. Desperate and clinging to hope, many victims viewed the loans she suggested as a kind of spiritual offering. Borrow first, the heavens will repay later. And so they began taking out loans exactly as she instructed. Her strategy was extremely discreet. Anya never put her own name on any loan documents. All loans were taken directly by the names Stu had, victims themselves from banks and finance companies. According to police, Anya played the role of a director, while the victims became the main actors in her debt scheme. She taught them how to fill out loan applications, how to fabricate a strong financial profile so banks would approve high amounts. For victims who didn't qualify, she sent them to loan brokers who were also part of the syndicate to forge documents. Her goal was simple: help each person borrow as much money as possible, often hundreds of thousands of AUD at a time. In one case, a single victim was coerced into taking 10 different loans, totaling nearly $1 million USD spread across multiple banks. These loans ranged from car financing to business loans and even home equity lines. Once the loans were approved, the money entered the victim's account, and immediately afterward, Anya and her associates demanded the cash. She presented this as ritual money to open your fortune, or claimed she needed to invest and circulate the money according to divine guidance. Of course, she always promised that once the benefactor appeared, they would receive all their money back, multiplied many times over. With each successful loan scheme, Anya pocketed at least $100,000 USD. The remaining funds were funneled straight into accounts controlled by the syndicate. Most victims were left with almost nothing, sometimes just a few $1,000s labeled as a token blessing. Police estimate that nearly $70 million USD was stolen through this method. Once the cash was secured, Anya began the process of laundering the money. Her favorite method was to pour it into casinos. Under the persona of a lucky, wealthy lady, Anya purchased large amounts of chips, played a few rounds casually, then cashed out the chips as clean money. In one instance, she laundered $340,000 USD in just 2 months at a Sydney casino. Because she regularly transacted huge sums, casinos classified her as a VIP, which made it even easier to conceal her activities. Beyond casinos, her syndicate used shell companies, multi-bank transfers, and high-value asset purchases to legitimize the illicit income. Once the money was fully clean, Anya wasted no time enjoying her wealth. She expanded her assets, buying houses, land, luxury vehicles, gold bars, expensive jewelry. By May 2025, her business record showed a new company registered in Lewisham, likely created to hold assets. Just 1 month later, in June 2025, the company purchased a $9 million USD mansion in Dover Heights. The lavish property quickly became Anya Phan's headquarters. But she didn't stop there. She also bought a $3.5 million USD apartment in Rose Bay under her daughter's name, along with several luxury cars and additional gold bars for safekeeping. Alongside her throughout the operation was her daughter, Theta, 25 years old. Theta played the role of an indispensable accomplice, assisting her mother with financial transactions, cash withdrawals, and property ownership. Her social media was filled with luxury parties and overseas vacations. To the outside world, Anya Phan and her daughter looked like members of the elite few would ever guess that most of their fortune came from the suffering of their own community. After months of surveillance and evidence gathering, police decided it was time to close the net. At 6 a.m. on the 12th of November 2025, the Middleton Task Force and the elite Raptor Squad silently surrounded Anya Phan's mansion in Dover Heights. Officers climbed over a neighbor's fence to approach the property unnoticed. Once everyone was in position, the order was given. The mansion door was blown open and tactical units stormed inside. Startled awake, Anya Phan and her daughter screamed in shock, completely disoriented. Within minutes, both were restrained and taken into custody. A full search of the mansion began immediately. Police found a massive trove of financial documents, loan applications, bank files, and meticulously kept lists of clients recorded by Anya. Most notable was a notebook in her feng shui decorated office, a black ledger detailing each victim's loan amount, profit percentages, and handwritten feng shui notes on the side. In addition to paperwork, officers seized dozens of phones and electronic devices, crucial evidence containing messages and emails between Anya, her accomplices, and her victims. Designer handbags neatly arranged in the wardrobe were also seized, suspected to have been purchased with illicit funds. Inside the safe, police found gold bars, casino chips, and a significant amount of cash, mostly high-denomination bills, a classic indicator of money laundering activity. Every item was photographed and logged on the spot. Simultaneously, the Crime Commission froze all assets belonging to Anya and her daughter, including the Dover Heights mansion, the Rose Bay apartment, and all bank accounts under the names Anya, Phan, and Theta. This prevented them from moving or hiding funds and ensured future confiscation if convicted. Alongside Anya's arrest, police summoned numerous individuals for questioning, many of them victims who had taken out loans under her direction. They were Vietnamese immigrants in Australia, mostly middle-aged and financially unstable. Many admitted they didn't know they were part of a criminal scheme. They believed they were helping a feng shui master perform a spiritual ritual and would later receive blessings in return. In several families, multiple members were drawn into the borrowing spiral, convinced by Anya that this opportunity to get rich would help the entire household change their destiny. Tragically, some of these victims were later arrested as part of the syndicate, facing criminal charges. Now, not only must they shoulder the massive bank debts taken in their names, but they also face prosecution for involvement in money laundering. With Anya Phan in custody, investigators believed they had finally reached the top tier of this fraud network. Police determined that Anya had effectively taken over the syndicate's leadership after the previous ringleader was arrested in mid-2025. This also explained why she suddenly began spending far more aggressively toward the end of 2025. Anya had seized the power vacuum and manipulated the network entirely for her own gain. However, her initial statements revealed very little. She remained silent or denied wrongdoing, insisting she merely helped people by lending money. Her daughter, Theta, on the other hand, reportedly cooperated, partially providing information about bank accounts and associates, likely hoping for leniency. During the expanded investigation, police began to suspect that the syndicate received help from professionals, lawyers, accountants, or bank employees. These individuals may have turned a blind eye or actively assisted in forging financial documents and concealing money trails in exchange for commissions. Police were determined to eliminate the entire network, noting that a $70 million USD fraud operation could not have been executed by just two people. There had to be a much larger system operating behind them. Financial investigators are now working with the Australian Securities and Investments Commission to trace money flowing into lawyer trust accounts, as well as property purchases made by the group. Authorities fear that their bulk buying of real estate may have artificially inflated housing prices, particularly in eastern Sydney. In fact, the mother-daughter duo's purchase of 2 luxury properties in 2025 caused a stir in the local market, with nearby home prices rising sharply after their massive transactions. Due to the seriousness of the case, Anya Phan was immediately denied bail after her arrest. The court argued that her vast assets, along with her previous use of false identities during the commission of the crimes, created a significant risk of flight, especially overseas, and therefore pretrial detention was necessary to ensure she would appear at future hearings. In contrast, her daughter, Theta, was granted conditional bail. The decision surprised many people, but when considering Thea's role and circumstances, the court found it reasonable. First, she faced far fewer charges than her mother, and her potential sentence was considerably lower. Second, Thi was young and not a mastermind. She was largely following her mother's instructions, making her a lower-risk defendant. Third, the defense argued successfully that Thi had no criminal record, had a stable residence, and was likely to comply with all bail conditions, reducing concerns that she might abscond. The court ordered Thi Ta to remain at a fixed address, notify police of any changes, avoid contact with witnesses, and wait for her scheduled hearing in January 2026. After the initial investigation, Anya Phan was formally charged with 40 criminal offenses. The most serious was directing the activities of an organized criminal group, one of the highest level offenses under New South Wales law, alleging that she acted as the leader of the syndicate. Under New South Wales criminal statutes, this offense carries a maximum penalty of up to 10 years in prison, potentially higher if aggravating factors are proven, as it is equivalent to running a criminal enterprise. She also faced 19 charges of obtaining a financial advantage by deception, the legal definition for large-scale fraud used to unlawfully obtain money from others. Each charge typically corresponds to one fraudulent loan or one individual victim. The fact that there were 19 charges means investigators were able to identify at least 19 separate fraudulent actions committed by Anya Phan. Each of these counts carries a maximum sentence of up to 10 years. Theoretically, if these charges were stacked consecutively, this category alone could result in decades of imprisonment. She also faced 13 charges of dealing with proceeds of crime, meaning the laundering of illegally obtained assets to conceal their unlawful origin, each count punishable by up to 15 years in prison. In addition, Anya was charged with 5 counts of identity information offenses relating to the use of another person's identification to commit serious financial crimes, such as forging loan applications. These offenses each carry multiple years of potential imprisonment. Finally, she faced 2 counts of attempted fraud, meaning she had deliberately initiated fraudulent schemes that ultimately failed, either because they were detected or rejected. Under the law, attempted offenses still carry penalties equivalent to completed crimes. Altogether, Anya Phan was staring at a massive indictment. If every maximum penalty were imposed consecutively, she could theoretically face over 100 years in prison. In practice, the court will consider multiple factors and decide whether sentences run concurrently or consecutively. Even so, legal experts predict that due to the scale of the fraud, Anya Phan is almost certain to receive a multi-decade sentence if convicted on all major charges. As for Thi Ta, her charges are far narrower, reflecting her secondary role. She faces 2 counts of fraud, 2 identity information offenses, 1 charge of money laundering involving more than $5,000 USD, and 1 charge of participating in a criminal organization. Although these offenses mirror her mother's charges in nature, they are significantly less severe. If the maximum sentences were added together, she could still face multiple decades in prison. However, if Thi cooperates and the court accepts that she acted under her mother's direction, she may receive a substantially lighter sentence. It is highly likely that Thi Ta will seek leniency based on her limited role, young age, and cooperation, and she may negotiate a plea deal on reduced charges. The case has now been escalated to a higher court due to its gravity, with the next hearing scheduled for the 15th of January 2026 for Anya Phan and the 23rd of January 2026 for Thi Ta. At that stage, the court will reassess all evidence, possibly order further investigations, and may even consolidate the charges of both mother and daughter along with any additional suspects into a single major trial. Given the scale of the evidence and the number of charges, the legal proceedings are expected to be lengthy. The $70 million feng shui fraud case has become not only a wake-up call for the Vietnamese community in Australia, but also a stark reminder of the dangers of placing blind faith in spiritual claims. Indeed, everyone hopes for good fortune in life, but believing that luck can be bought or relying entirely on destiny readings has allowed many to fall prey to manipulation. The desire to change one's life quickly, especially during personal hardship, was precisely the weakness that Anya Phan exploited. So how can each of us stay aware and avoid falling into such sophisticated traps? Share your thoughts in the comments below so we can discuss them together. And if you want to follow more real-life investigations and cautionary true crime stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Vietnamese Case Files. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.